I say frankly to the American statesmen who are now managing the genocide in Palestine that we do not welcome to expansion of the war in the region. But I warn, if the genocide in Gaza continues, they will not be spared from this fire.
That was Iran's foreign minister issuing a stark warning to the United States while speaking at the United Nations yesterday. Meanwhile, North Korea accusing the U.S. of being an accomplice to, quote, Israel's genocide in Gaza. The United States striking 2 facilities in eastern Syria overnight. These facilities have been used by Iranian-backed soldiers. This after 19 attacks against American troops in the Middle East. Joining me right now is Ohio Congressman Brad Wenstrup. He's a member of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, thanks so much for being here this morning. And I want to get your take first on these 19 attacks on U.S. Troops in the Middle East. This has been going on a long time. Finally, the United States reacts.
Yeah, I think the key word there is finally as well. And we should have done this a long time ago. That's what strength looks like. You know, these groups are Iranian aligned for sure. They've been attacking our troops. And we responded by attacking one of their storage facilities that is also aligned with Iran. As has been said, this is a form of self-defense. They provoked us. It was retaliatory. Their attacks had largely been unsuccessful, fortunately. And I would say that this is separate, but in some ways aligned with what Iran is doing, what Hamas is doing. So they're all tied together. We have to show greater signs of strength around the world. You've had conversations already this morning about how we are spread out and we're showing weakness. And now you have Foreign Minister of Iran on U.S. soil saying the United States will not be spared. Iran is a problem. Why has this administration and the Obama administration been catering to Iran? They have been a problem for us since 1979 when they took hostages from our embassy. We should not be catering to them. We need to continue to show strength. And look, you saw a difference between the Obama administration and the Trump administration, and now you see the difference between the Trump administration and the Biden administration. Both Obama and Biden have emboldened Iran, and they're part of this axis of evil. So when they make these accusations about the United States being involved with Israel and genocide, they clearly are ignoring facts and trying to spin the story.
Yeah, facts like Hamas right now, as we speak, is holding more than 200 hostages, some American. And yet, you know, we don't hear a lot about that. The administration was really reluctant to tie all of this to Iran from day one, from October 7th. And Congressman, you're on the Intelligence Committee. What kind of intelligence have you seen in terms of the potential for Iran and the United States with a heightened war or a heightened conflict?
Well, I think we have to be cautious because I believe that this is what they want. I think they want to draw us in more and more. And that's why I think we have to show strength everywhere we possibly can to deter a larger scale war. They can say what they want about what's going on in Israel, but we know the facts on the ground, and we are going to support Israel. And we should do that in a strong fashion. Look, the axis of evil also includes Russia. And so we do have to support Ukraine. But what we're seeing within Congress is we want to do it with a defined mission, which we haven't had. Right now, we need a commander-in-chief that will sit in the Oval Office and tell America what's going on in the world, how U.S. interests are being jeopardized, and what we are going to do to protect the United States of America and our interests around the world, and especially with our allies. We haven't gotten that. That's normally what we get when we are engaged in conflicts in one way or another around the world, and we haven't gotten that from this administration. And you just have to look at Ukraine, where their strategy is for as long as it takes. That's not a strategy. And several of us in Congress, especially veterans on the Intelligence Committee behind Mike Garcia, have put together a plan for Ukraine, for example. And so we open that up for discussion. What is our mission? Well, we want to make Russia regret that they ever did this, for one, and we want to see Ukraine a sovereign nation. So let's go about doing that and can't just say as long as it takes and keep spending money.
Yeah, and I think that's why the American people have voiced concern about that. It feels like it's just an open check to Ukraine. We have no idea where the money is going. I want to get your take on what you can do about it, because now you've got a speaker in place, newly elected House Speaker Mike Johnson. As soon as he became Speaker, the House passed a resolution supporting Israel and condemning Hamas. Then he put the House back to work on appropriations bills. He sat down for his first interview last night since getting the gavel, telling Fox News where he stands on Ukraine funding, whether it should be tied to Israel. Watch this.
We can't allow Vladimir Putin to prevail in Ukraine, because I don't believe it would stop there, and it would probably encourage and empower China to perhaps make a move on Taiwan. We have to make sure that the White House is providing the people with some accountability for the dollars, and we want to know what the objective there is. What is the end game in Ukraine? The White House has not provided that. I was at the White House for a couple of hours today, and I told the staff there that this is where we are. This is where the House Republicans are. So we're going to look at Israel separately.
So, Congressman, how do you see this playing out? Will these be separated? Will it stop short in the Senate? And what about this November 17th deadline? Most of Wall Street and the notes that I'm reading are expecting another continuing resolution, a short-term funding, so the government stays open beyond November 17th. Do you have a sense of where this is going?
Yeah, I sense that there'll be some type of a CR, and that's just the reality, an unfortunate reality. There's a lot of things going on, and unfortunately, we had the problems with the speakership, and that's put us behind the eight ball a little bit as well. But I agree with what Speaker Johnson just had to say. That has been the mood in the Republican Party and the House of Representatives. These are separate issues. We want to fund Israel. We want to do it and we want to support them in every way that we can, to make them a free and sovereign nation and allow them to have peace in the region. They are our ally and the only democracy in the region. When it comes to Ukraine, then what I was saying before, we want a mission. We want to be able to drive Putin back and to prevent further aggression from him, and also for a sovereign Ukraine itself. The other thing is, this is coming from the American people, and we get this. This is an opportunity for us to move forward with border security, our own border security, because the American people do want this, and it's even spreading more than it was before, that we want a safe nation, a secure nation, and we want to know who's coming in and out of our country. So the opportunity to tie border security to Ukraine funding, I think, can be very appropriate and an opportunity for us, and better for the United States all the way around.
Yeah, but I mean, I was under the impression that the border didn't need money. It needs a policy change. What's the money going to be used for, other than housing migrants, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right, because when you want, it's not necessarily putting more money towards the border, right. It's changing the policies, because the money that's going towards the border is there to aid and abet the weak policies of the Biden administration.
Correct.
And we don't want that.
Okay, so how about this, Congressman? Fox has obtained this new video of Congressman Jamal Bowman pulling the fire alarm in a House office building last month. Bowman first removed emergency signs before pulling the alarm. Look at this. We've got it all on video. Then he walks away, still holding one of the signs. Bowman accepted a plea deal on a single misdemeanor charge this week. He has to pay $1,000 fine. He also has to write an apology to the Capitol Police Chief, and the charge will be dismissed in 3 months if he does not commit another crime. New York Republican Nicole Maliotakis pushed for a resolution to expel him from Congress. Congressman, what would be the right accountability here for trying to stop the proceedings by pulling the alarm?
Well, that's exactly what he did, and that's what the people on January 6th were accused of, is stopping the proceedings, and many of them have gotten pretty severe punishment. I don't see where this doesn't fit into the same category. So why is he being treated so differently? It's really appalling. There's no doubt about it. And what we're seeing is, once again, there's different levels of justice in America today, because we don't have blind justice in America. We have politicized the Department of Justice and in many cases, law enforcement itself. He deserves to be punished, and that is something that we should consider, to expel him. If he is going to be a tyrant against the work of Congress, which is what that was, then I think that we need to take some type of action if the legal means do not seem to want to be able to do that.
Congressman, I want to switch gears before you go. You've worked so much on the COVID response on your subcommittee and investigating COVID-19. Congressman, here we are right up against November. Next week is November, and it's cold and flu season. Are we going to see another shutdown? Are we going to see another effort from this administration for everybody to get new vaccines around COVID? Assess where we are on that.
Yeah, I hope we don't. I don't think that people will tolerate any type of a mandate.
Yep.
Recommendations that were put forward.
Doug Collins, I know you wanted to jump in there. Congressman Wenstrup has done a great job in investigating and exposing some of the lies around COVID.
Oh, exactly. And Brad, coming from being a doctor, being a member of Congress, and it's just, it provides a different aspect. And he's not willing to accept the standard line of just do this because it's in the best interest of science. Here is a doctor who is a science, who looks at it and says, well, what's the best interest for the patient? And I think that's going to be the big key that we try to get some sense to this. He's done a great job exposing that. The real interest is that they've just not paid attention to it on the mainstream media.
Yeah. All right. We will leave it there. My apologies for Brad Wenstrup. In the middle of his answer, he did say the people will not accept another mandate.